My name is Michael Harris. I'm 41 years old, and I work as a financial analyst here in Dallas. For the past 8 years, I've been married to Laura, who's 38. We've always been a team, or at least I thought we were. I supported her career at Stonebridge Partners, a consulting firm downtown, even when it meant eating dinner alone most nights while she worked those endless hours climbing the corporate ladder. Laura had been with Stonebridge for 3 years, and I watched her transform from the woman I married into someone I barely recognized. New designer clothes, expensive perfumes, and a defensiveness whenever I asked about her work. But I attributed it all to the stress of corporate life. After all, we had dreams together, buying our own house, maybe starting a family. I believed we were building something meaningful. That Tuesday evening in April 2025, everything changed. Laura called me around 6:30, her voice practically bubbling with excitement. "Michael, you won't believe it," she said. "Richard just told me I'm getting promoted. $15,000 more per year, plus quarterly bonuses, and they're giving me a private office on the 15th floor." I felt genuine pride hearing the joy in her voice. This was what we'd worked toward, what all those lonely dinners and weekend work sessions had been for. "That's incredible, honey. We should celebrate," I told her. "I'll probably be here until 10 tonight wrapping up some paperwork with Richard, but we can celebrate this weekend," she replied. Richard Coleman, her boss, 47 years old, director of operations, and according to Laura, a mentor who believed in her potential. I'd met him twice at company events. Firm handshake, expensive suits, the kind of confidence that comes from never having to worry about money. If you enjoy stories of cold-blooded revenge and gripping plot twists, like this video and subscribe to the channel now. There are brand new unreleased stories here every day, each one more intense than the last. After hanging up, I made a decision. Instead of waiting until the weekend, why not surprise her tonight? I knew Laura's favorite dish, the seafood risotto from Antonelli's, that little Italian place we went on our anniversary. I could pick it up, head to her office, and we could celebrate together in that new private office she was so excited about. The drive to downtown Dallas took about 30 minutes in evening traffic. I parked in the visitor section of the Stonebridge building, a gleaming 30-story tower that always made me feel small. The lobby was mostly empty except for a security guard and a young receptionist who smiled a little too brightly when I mentioned I was there to see Laura Harris. "Oh, Mrs. Harris," she said, her smile faltering slightly. She should be in the executive conference room on the 22nd floor. Something in her tone bothered me, but I thanked her and took the elevator up. The 22nd floor was dimly lit, most offices dark and empty. I followed the hallway toward the conference room, the bag of risotto still warm in my hands. As I got closer, I could hear voices. Laura's laugh, which I'd know anywhere, and a man's deeper voice. I pushed the door open quietly. What I saw destroyed 8 years of marriage in a single moment. Laura was pressed against the conference table, Richard's hands in her hair, their mouths locked together with the kind of passion I hadn't seen from her in months. The promotion celebration was apparently more intimate than I'd imagined. I stood there for maybe 10 seconds, the bag of risotto growing heavy in my hands. Neither of them noticed me. I backed away slowly, closing the door with the same care I'd opened it, and walked back to the elevator like a man in a dream. The drive home was a blur. I sat in our driveway for 20 minutes, staring at our modest 3-bedroom house, trying to process what I'd witnessed. The woman I'd supported, encouraged, and loved was building her career on her back. Every late night, every weekend work session, every time she'd come home claiming exhaustion. It all made sense now. I didn't confront Laura that night. When she came home around 11 o'clock, claiming to be exhausted from finalizing promotion paperwork, I was already in bed pretending to sleep. She slipped in beside me, and I could smell Richard's cologne on her skin. The same expensive scent I'd noticed at those company parties. "How was your celebration?" I asked quietly in the darkness. "Oh, just boring office stuff." Richard wanted to go over my new responsibilities. Her voice carried that practiced casualness of someone who'd rehearsed a lie. I made a sound that could pass for understanding and let her think I believed it. But my mind was already working, calculating. In 8 years of marriage, I'd learned that Laura was meticulous about covering her tracks. But she had one weakness. She trusted me completely. She had no idea I knew what I knew. The next morning, while Laura showered, I did something I had never done before. I transferred my portion of our joint savings account, about $38,000, into my personal checking account. We'd always kept our finances mostly separate, a decision that suddenly seemed prescient. I also changed the passwords on our shared credit cards and updated the emergency contacts on my retirement accounts. These weren't acts of spite, they were insurance. Because if Laura was willing to betray our marriage for career advancement, I needed to protect myself from whatever else she might be capable of. Over the next few days, I watched Laura differently. The late nights, the new confidence, the way she started dressing more expensively. It all painted a picture I'd been too trusting to see. She talked about Richard constantly now, praising his vision and leadership. He really sees potential in me. She'd say, he thinks I can make senior manager within 18 months. The pieces were falling into place. The promotion wasn't a reward for her work performance. It was payment for services rendered. On Friday evening, Laura announced she'd be working late again. Big presentation on Monday. She explained, kissing my cheek with lips that had been on another man just days ago. Richard wants me to review the client portfolio one more time. After she left, I made a decision that would change everything. I needed to find out exactly what Laura was really doing at work. Laura had always been careless about cybersecurity. Despite working for a financial firm, she routinely accessed her work email from her personal laptop using Stonebridge's VPN connection, a common practice the company allowed through their BYOD policy. What made it worse was that she'd enabled the Remember Me option on her browser, keeping her corporate credentials cached even after VPN sessions ended. While she was out, I accessed her personal laptop and found exactly what I feared. Her work email account was synced to the device, and what I discovered there went far beyond adultery. Laura wasn't just sleeping with her boss. She was helping him systematically overcharge their clients. The first email that caught my attention was dated 6 weeks ago on March 15th. Richard to Laura. The Brennan Industries pension consultation fee processing went through at 35% above standard rate. Make sure the billing reconciliation documentation reflects our normal methodology. We can't have discrepancies during the next compliance review. I scrolled deeper. More emails, more transactions, more carefully coded language. They weren't just inflating individual bills. They were running a sophisticated, overcharging scheme across dozens of pension fund accounts. Retirement plans belonging to teachers, city workers, small business employees. People who trusted Stonebridge partners with their financial futures were being systematically overviewed. One email exchange from April 3rd made my blood run cold. Richard had written, the Hartwell Community College account audit is scheduled for Q3. We'll need to adjust the fee structure documentation before then. Morrison in accounting has been asking detailed questions about our billing methodology. Laura's response, Morrison is becoming a liability. Maybe it's time to restructure his responsibilities. Move him somewhere with less oversight access. Davis and operations might be more cooperative with the new procedures. I sat back in my chair, stunned. This wasn't just billing fraud. It was a coordinated conspiracy to steal from retirement funds while potentially destroying the careers of honest employees who might discover the overcharging. Based on what I could piece together from the emails, they'd been systematically extracting excess fees for at least 18 months. I spent the next 4 hours methodically documenting every suspicious email and transaction record I could access. The pattern was clear. Richard and Laura had been manipulating their firm's billing systems, creating inflated fee structures and redirecting the excess charges to accounts they controlled through a network of shell consulting agreements. Laura's promotion wasn't just about sleeping with the boss. She was being rewarded for her crucial role in executing and concealing financial theft. The most damning evidence was a detailed spreadsheet Laura had prepared titled Account Optimization Analysis. It was essentially a systematic plan for maximizing overcharge potential across their client base without triggering automatic audit flags. The document showed they had already extracted over $900,000 in fraudulent fees across 43 different pension accounts. Around midnight, I printed the most critical documents and stored copies in my home office safe. Then I made a phone call. Jessica Wong had been my colleague at Sterling Financial 5 years ago, before she left to join the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. We kept in touch occasionally, mostly holiday cards and LinkedIn updates, but Jessica had always told me to call if I ever saw something suspicious in the financial sector. Michael, it's past midnight. Is everything okay? Jessica's voice was alert despite the hour. Jessica, I need to report a major financial crime, and it involves my wife. There was a pause. How serious are we talking? Systematic overcharging of pension fund clients. Based on the documentation I found, probably close to $1 million in fraudulent fees so far. Jesus. I'll meet you tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. Federal Building downtown. Bring everything you have, and Michael, don't let your wife know about this conversation. After hanging up, I sat in the dark for a long time. In the span of 1 week, my marriage had died, and I discovered my wife was a criminal. But somewhere in the devastation, I felt something unexpected. Clarity. The woman Laura had become wasn't someone I could live with anyway, and now I had the power to make sure she couldn't hurt anyone else. Saturday morning, April 26th, I told Laura I was going to play golf with some old colleagues from Sterling Financial. She barely looked up from her phone, probably texting Richard about their next meeting. Have fun, honey, she said absently. I might do some shopping later. The Federal Building in downtown Dallas is an imposing structure, all concrete and glass, designed to intimidate. Jessica met me in the lobby at exactly 9 o'clock a.m. Looking every inch the federal agent in her Navy suit and non-nonsense demeanor. We'd worked together for 3 years, and I'd always respected her analytical mind. Now I was counting on it. This better be substantial, Michael, she said as we rode the elevator to the 14th floor. Saturday meetings aren't standard protocol. It's substantial, and it's going to save a lot of people's retirement funds. We sat in a sterile conference room while I laid out everything I discovered. Jessica's expression grew more serious with each document. When I showed her Laura's account optimization analysis, she whistled softly. This isn't just billing fraud, Michael. This is systematic racketeering targeting, employee benefit plans. How long has this been going on? Based on the emails, at least 18 months. The spreadsheet shows they've already extracted over $900,000 in excess fees. I pulled out the most damning evidence. Look at this. They're already planning to reassign employees who ask too many questions about their billing practices. Jessica studied the emails carefully. Morrison and Davis, do you know them? I met Morrison once at a company event in 2022. Seemed like a decent guy, probably mid-30s. Has a family. From what I could tell, he's just an accounting specialist trying to do his job properly. Perfect scapegoat, Jessica muttered. Michael, I have to ask, are you prepared for what happens next? Laura will be arrested. This will destroy her career, and probably result in federal prison time. I've been asking myself that same question all night. She made her choices, and she was willing to destroy innocent people to cover her tracks. How many retirees are going to lose part of their savings because of what she and Richard have been doing? Jessica nodded slowly. Give us 4 weeks to build the case properly. We'll need to coordinate with other agencies and get warrants for financial records. Don't change your behavior at home. Don't confront her. And whatever you do, don't let her know you've discovered anything. Can you handle that? Living with Laura for the next 4 weeks was psychological torture. She continued her charade of working late, while I knew she was either manipulating financial records or meeting with Richard. Probably both. She'd come home with stories about difficult clients and challenging compliance issues, and I'd nod sympathetically, while knowing every word was carefully constructed deception. The hardest part was watching her excitement about the future she thought she was building. She started talking about upgrading our house, maybe getting a cabin in Colorado for weekend getaways. With my new position and the performance bonuses, we can finally afford some real luxuries, she'd say, all built on stolen money from people who'd worked their entire lives for financial security. On May 10th, 2 weeks into the FBI investigation, Laura came home with concerning news. Something odd happened at work today, she said. Morrison in accounting has been asking a lot of detailed questions about our fee calculation procedures. Richard thinks he's being overly thorough, maybe trying to impress management for a promotion. I kept my expression neutral. What kind of questions? Just technical stuff about how we determine management fees and consulting charges. Nothing serious. But Morrison has always been obsessive about documentation. She paused, then added with casual dismissal. Richard thinks we might need to reassign him to a different department, someone less meticulous. That night, I called Jessica from my office. They're getting nervous about Morrison asking questions. Laura mentioned they might transfer him. We're almost ready, Jessica assured me. Just a few more days. We want to execute the search warrants when we can catch them actively processing fraudulent transactions. The break came on Wednesday morning, May 21st. Laura left early, claiming she had important client meetings all day, but I'd learned to monitor her patterns, and this felt different, more urgent, more secretive. Around 10:30 a.m., Jessica called. We're moving today. We've been monitoring their financial systems, and they just processed several suspicious overcharged transactions this morning. The search warrants are being executed at noon. The rest of that day passed in surreal slow motion. I tried to focus on work, but kept checking news websites, waiting for some sign that the operation had begun. Around 2:00 p.m., I finally saw it. A breaking news alert. FBI raids downtown Dallas financial firm in fraud investigation. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Michael, something terrible has happened at work. I need you to call my lawyer. Please help me. Laura. I stared at the message for a long time, then deleted it without responding. The news coverage expanded throughout the afternoon. Channel 8 ran footage of FBI agents carrying boxes of documents and computer equipment out of the Stonebridge Partners building. A reporter standing outside mentioned that federal agents had executed search warrants related to allegations of fraudulent billing practices targeting pension fund clients. By evening, the story had developed further. 2 executives from Stonebridge Partners had been arrested on federal charges of wire fraud, conspiracy, and theft from employee benefit plans. The names weren't released yet, but I knew. That night, Jessica called to update me. We got them. Michael, Laura, and Richard were both arrested this afternoon. We seized all their financial records, computers, and documentation. Based on what we found so far, the total fraudulent overcharges amount to over $2 million. Your wife's spreadsheet was conservative. What happens now? They'll be arraigned tomorrow, probably released on bail pending trial. But Michael, this is a strong federal case. Neither of them will be working in finance again, and they're both looking at significant prison time. I nodded, surprised by how empty I felt. And Morrison Davis safe. In fact, Morrison's detailed questions and documentation actually helped us confirm several of the fraudulent transactions. He's been completely cleared of any wrongdoing and has already been approached by other firms. Over the following weeks, the investigation revealed the full scope of Laura and Richard's scheme. They had systematically overbilled dozens of pension fund clients by 30 to 40% on management fees, redirecting the excess charges through a network of shell consulting contracts to accounts they controlled. The victims included retirement plans for teachers, city workers, small business employees, and municipal pension funds across North Texas. The media coverage was extensive and damaging. Stonebridge Partners' reputation was destroyed almost overnight. On June 20th, the company announced it was ceasing operations, unable to recover from the scandal. About 35 employees lost their jobs, though most found new positions relatively quickly, since they were clearly victims of their leadership's criminal behavior. Laura's bail hearing was a sobering experience. Seeing her in an orange jumpsuit, trying to maintain her composure while facing federal charges, drove home the reality of what her choices had cost. Her parents flew in from Phoenix, confused and devastated. They kept asking me what had happened, as if I owed them explanations for their daughter's crimes. The preliminary evidence presented at the hearing was overwhelming. The prosecution outlined how Laura and Richard had manipulated billing systems, created fraudulent fee structures, and systematically overcharged retirement accounts over an 18-month period. Laura's own account optimization analysis became the prosecution's most powerful evidence. Richard's attorney tried to argue that Laura was a manipulated subordinate, while Laura's lawyer claimed she was pressured by her superior into participating in activities she didn't fully understand. Neither defense held up against the documentary evidence showing Laura's active role in planning and executing the overcharging scheme. As of September 2025, both Laura and Richard remain free on bail while their cases move through the federal court system. Their trial is scheduled for early 2026, and legal experts predict both will face significant prison sentences if convicted. The FBI has recovered approximately 85% of the fraudulent fees, which are being returned to the affected pension accounts. The personal aftermath has been complex, but ultimately liberating. The divorce proceedings were straightforward. Laura had no grounds to contest anything, and her legal troubles made her eager to settle quickly. I kept the house, our legitimate savings, and most importantly, my integrity. Laura has tried to contact me numerous times, alternating between desperate apologies and angry accusations that I destroyed her life by reporting her crimes. I've maintained complete silence. She made her choices long before I discovered them, and those choices had consequences that extended far beyond our marriage. The hardest part hasn't been losing Laura. It's been accepting how thoroughly I misjudged her character. The woman I thought I married, who claimed to care about helping people and building a fair society, had been systematically stealing from retirees and planning to destroy innocent colleagues' careers to cover her tracks. But there's been unexpected positive outcomes, too. I've received calls from several of the fraud victims thanking me for coming forward. David Sullivan, a retired teacher whose pension account was targeted, told me that recovering those stolen fees meant he and his wife could afford their prescription medications without choosing between pills and groceries. Morrison, the accounting specialist Laura and Richard tried to scapegoat, was promoted at his new company, partly due to the recognition he received for his diligent work that helped expose the fraud. Davis also landed a better position and has publicly thanked me for preventing him from being falsely accused of financial crimes. My own career has taken an interesting turn. Several financial firms have approached me about consulting work, specifically helping them strengthen their internal controls against the type of systematic overcharging Laura and Richard perpetrated. It's given me a sense of purpose I didn't expect. Using this painful experience to protect other people's retirement security, the experience has fundamentally changed how I view trust and relationships. I'm more cautious now, but not cynical. I've learned that some people are capable of compartmentalizing their lives in ways that allow them to steal from strangers while maintaining loving relationships at home. Laura genuinely believed she could have both a criminal career and a happy marriage without seeing the contradiction. Justice isn't always dramatic or immediate. Sometimes it's just making sure the truth comes to light and that people face appropriate consequences for their choices. Laura and Richard thought they were clever enough to systematically overcharge hundreds of retirees without getting caught. They never anticipated that their own meticulous documentation would become the evidence that destroyed them. The real victory wasn't seeing them arrested. It was knowing that pension fund beneficiaries across North Texas kept their hard-earned retirement security, and that honest employees like Morrison could continue their careers without being falsely blamed for crimes they never committed. Sometimes the best revenge is simply telling the truth and letting justice take its natural course. If you enjoyed this story, like this video and leave a comment telling me what you thought. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get alerts for new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.